In a land of tall castles and even taller tales, there lived a knight. This wasn't a knight from the storybooks with a constantly shining shield and a courage that never faltered. This knight's armor was a bit scuffed, his helmet was sometimes on backwards, and his courage, well, his courage was a little patchy. It came and went like sunshine on a cloudy day. His biggest problem, however, was not his armor or his wavering bravery. It was his impatience. He was a knight of action, a knight of doing. He liked clanking and striding and getting things done right away. The idea of waiting for something was as uncomfortable as a pebble in his boot. Our story begins on a breezy afternoon when a whisper reached the knight's ears. It wasn't a normal whisper carried on the wind. It was a story told by traveling merchants and wandering minstrels. They spoke of a secret deep within the Whispering Woods, a place known as the Trail of Silent Laughter. No one had ever truly seen it, but the legend was enchanting. It was said to be a path where joy was not heard, but seen. A place where happiness bloomed without a sound. The knight, whose name was simply the Knight, thought this was his chance. If he could find this mysterious trail, this silent laughter, everyone would see how brave and bold he was. His patchy courage would be forgotten, replaced by the legend of the knight who solved the wood's greatest riddle. He didn't stop to think. He didn't pause to plan. He grabbed his helmet, put it on the right way for once, strapped on his slightly too loud sword, and marched toward the edge of the Whispering Woods, his armor clanking a rhythm of impatience with every single step. He was going to find that laughter, and he was going to find it now. He stood at the edge of the trees, a wall of green and shadow, and took a deep, determined breath. He was ready for a grand, loud adventure. Or so he thought. The knight charged into the Whispering Woods like a runaway boulder. Clank, clank, swish, crunch. His armored boots snapped twigs and crushed fallen leaves. He pushed past ferns and ducked under low-hanging branches, expecting to stumble upon the trail of silent laughter around any corner. He looked for big signs, for giant sparkling arrows pointing the way. He imagined a path paved with glittering stones or trees that bowed in greeting. But he saw nothing. There was only the deep, quiet green of the forest. The woods seemed to hold its breath as he thundered through. He saw a flash of white and lunged towards it, thinking it was a magical clue. It was just a fluffy rabbit, which took one look at the noisy knight and darted away into the undergrowth, its tail a disappearing puff of white. A little later, he heard a rustling in the canopy above. Aha, he thought. The laughter must be in the trees. He shook a small sapling with all his might, hoping to shake the secret loose. A shower of green leaves fell on his helmet, but nothing else. A family of squirrels chattered disapprovingly from a much higher, safer branch before vanishing. Hours passed. The sun, which was high in the sky when he began, started to dip towards the horizon, painting the woods in long golden stripes. The knight's confident stride had turned into a frustrated stomp. His patchy courage was beginning to look very patchy indeed. He had explored the east side, the west side, and a good bit of the middle. He had followed streams that led nowhere and climbed hills that only showed him more trees. There was no trail. There was no laughter. There was only silence, a silence made even bigger by his own clanking failure. He finally slumped down onto a large, moss-covered rock, his shoulders drooping. His sword felt heavy, and his armor felt ridiculous. He let out a long sigh, the sound swallowed by the immense quiet of the woods. He was defeated. He had been so sure, so ready for a quest full of heroic deeds, but the woods had offered him nothing. He decided to give up. He was too tired to even clank anymore. So he sat. And for the first time all day, the night was completely, utterly still. He didn't move for a very long time. The only sound was his own breathing, which gradually slowed down, matching the gentle rhythm of the forest. And then something wonderful began to happen. Because he was finally quiet, the woods began to forget he was a noisy intruder. The world started to come alive again, revealing secrets he had crashed right past before. He noticed a line of tiny black ants marching purposefully over his boot. He leaned closer, his helmet almost touching the leather. He saw that each ant was carrying a tiny, glistening droplet of dew, like a line of porters carrying precious jewels. He had been so busy looking for a giant magical trail that he hadn't seen the miniature, magical highway right at his feet. His eyes drifted to a nearby fern. A spider had spun a web between its delicate leaves. In the slanted light of the setting sun, the web transformed. It wasn't just a sticky trap, it was a tapestry of silver and gold threads, decorated with all the colors of the rainbow. It was more beautiful than any banner in the king's castle. The knight watched, mesmerized, as the tiny spider made a careful adjustment to a single thread, its patience a silent lesson. Slowly, carefully, so as not to disturb this newfound peace, the knight stood up. He didn't stride or stomp. He took a soft step, placing his foot down gently. He looked down, really looked at the ground beneath him. He saw a tiny mushroom, no bigger than his thumb, pushing its way through the soil. He saw a beetle with a shell that shone like polished emerald. He saw patterns in the moss on the rock, swirling green designs that looked like a map to a secret kingdom. He realized his mistake. He had been searching for magic with his sword and his feet, when he should have been searching with his eyes and his patience. The woods didn't shout its secrets, it whispered them. You had to be quiet to hear. Or in this case, you had to be still to see. He felt a new kind of courage rising in him. Not the loud, clanky kind, but a quiet, steady kind. He wouldn't give up. He would try again, but this time he would do it differently. He decided to follow the smallest signs. He saw a single fallen petal, a vibrant blue that didn't match any of the surrounding flowers. He walked to it and a few feet away saw another. He was on a new path now, a path of observation. The trail of petals led him to a clearing he hadn't noticed before. The air here felt different. It hummed with a soft, gentle energy. And then he saw it. A faint, shimmering dust seemed to hang in the air, swirling in the last rays of sunlight. It seemed to be coming from a peculiar patch of flowers up ahead. These flowers were unlike any he had ever seen. They had long bell-shaped heads that drooped slightly, their petals a mix of soft lavender and glowing gold. He approached slowly, holding his breath. A gentle breeze, a mere puff of air, drifted through the clearing. And then the magic happened. As the breeze touched the flowers, they didn't just sway. Their bell-shaped heads began to bob and tremble, shaking from side to side in a gentle rhythmic dance. With each shake, they released a tiny puff of that golden, shimmering pollen. The knight stood perfectly still, his heart filled with a quiet joy. He understood. The flowers weren't making a sound, not a single note, but their joyful shaking dance. It looked exactly like a person shaking with silent, happy laughter. This was it. The trail of silent laughter. It wasn't a path on the ground. It was a current of air, a gentle breeze, that brought the whole clearing to life with visible silent joy. Do you see it too? Can you imagine the flowers shaking with happiness, without making any sound at all? The knight felt as if he had been let in on the world's most wonderful secret. The knight didn't draw his sword. He didn't shout in victory. He sat down on the soft grass, took off his helmet, and simply watched. He observed the dance of the giggle blooms, as he decided to call them. He watched as different breezes created different kinds of laughter, a small chuckle from a tiny puff of wind, and a great belly laugh shake from a stronger gust. He saw how the bees and butterflies would fly through the golden pollen, getting dusted in sparkles before carrying the silent laughter to other parts of the forest. He stayed there for hours, not moving, just watching, as the sun set and the moon began to rise, casting a silvery glow on the dancing flowers. He learned more in that quiet clearing than he had in all his years of loud, impatient questing. He learned that patience wasn't about doing nothing. It was about paying attention to everything. He learned that observation was a kind of superpower, allowing him to see the magic that was hidden in plain sight. True courage, he now understood, wasn't about how loudly your armor clanked. It was about having the quiet strength to wait for the world to show you its wonders. The world's greatest magic, he realized, reveals itself not in the loud bangs and crashes of adventure, but in the quiet, patient moments in between. Can you think of a time when you noticed something amazing just by being very still and quiet? When the first stars appeared in the sky, the knight finally stood up. He felt different. He felt calm and confident. He placed his helmet back on his head, and as he turned to leave, he walked with a new softness. He placed his feet carefully, listening to the sounds of the forest instead of making his own. His armor barely made a whisper. He was no longer the knight of clanky impatience. He was the knight who had learned to see the silent laughter. He knew he would never forget the lesson of the giggle blooms. As he walked out of the whispering woods, the moonlight shining on his path, he found he wasn't thinking about proving his bravery to anyone anymore. He was filled with a sense of wonder. Having learned the power of patient observation, the knight began to wonder what other secrets the world held, waiting to be discovered. Perhaps the next adventure wouldn't be about seeing, but about listening. What secrets, he thought, could you learn by listening to the whispers of the wind? Moral core. This story shows that the world's true magic and beauty often reveal themselves not in grand events, but in quiet moments of stillness. Moral core. This story shows that the world's true magic and beauty often reveal themselves not in grand events, but in quiet moments of stillness.